The Alchemist by Miss Sharks 202. Charred bodies surrounded the forest. Craters and bloody viscera scattered about like the colourful divots of a relief on war. Giants and demons once roamed that smoking greenland. Children told tales of dark fantasy and horrid beasts. But that was long ago. Now only one story remains. Only one creature controls the fear of the forest. The Alchemist. The orcs, temples of ignorant violence, were the first to forget. Fear is a scar only carried by the wounded. Onlookers are always quick to replace memory with ambition. The great leader's name was Uthar the Brutal. He'd earned the title for slaughtering a village, barehanded and alone. They were unarmed, of course, but that only increased his prestige. This land! His great green hand spread out over the horizon of trees. It is rich in treasure, rich in iron and gold. Cheers erupted from his crowd of hungry orcs. Machines of war and destruction dotted the packed army. Wooden behemoths meant to kill their own with iron glaives. Barrels of black, sticky tar, ready to be set ablaze and produce a chalky smoke. The ground shook with their salivating greed. Uthar's hand clenched into a fist. All resistance will be crushed. They'd all heard the rumors, of course. Earlier in the year, Uthar had a meeting with his stewards to discuss the danger of such stories. This alchemist, he looked across his wooden war table towards his master of books, an elf named Elis, caught in the circling violence of orcs and looking to make a name for himself. Tell me of him. Elis rubbed his silky beard and spoke slowly. Rumor, of course, but obviously something dangerous sits in the woods. Bodies appear outside its borders almost daily. Uthar grunted. We have an army. Oh yes, his tone was matter of fact. Everyone can see that, but I fear if the rumors are true, then it might not be enough. Not enough. He slammed the table. What could an alchemist possibly present to my forces? Is it a mage, a creature of magic? No. I'm afraid if what I've read is true, alchemy has nothing to do with magic. I'm afraid this is much worse than that. Uthar would have no more of it. Hard and fast, he yelled to the army as they marched deep into the woods. Ellis stood beside him, hands behind his back and with a stoic face. This forest will be ours before night. Indeed, it did look that way. As they marched through the thickets and broad trees, they met little resistance. Only occasionally did an ogre or a pack of forest gremlins impede them, but all were quickly turned into piles of blood. Slowly, their black, tar-filled smoke worked its way inward. With dutiful strength, their axes and glaives tore against bark and root, ripped up soil, and made destruction of beauty. Yet, the deeper they went, the further they reached their hands into the box of ambition, the more a sense of Pandora's fury began to stalk them. The air began to sting their lungs, and touch not their bodies, but their souls. Gloom came with the wind, and the sun's striking rays started to become starved and dry. Even the bravest of orcs started to hesitate on their swing, and they all began checking behind their backs for phantoms or haunts. Uthar turned to Elis. What is this? What is this magic? Not magic, he nodded. No, this is what I'd warned about. This is much worse. Across from them, a rabbit screeched from its burrow, and all could see the dirt it kicked up in a desperate plea to get deeper. See, Elis continued, there's nothing magical happening to that rabbit. It is quite natural to feel fear when you've become trapped. Trapped? I told you before, Uthar. He began to walk away. The only thing worse than a magical human is a clever one. Suddenly the ground erupted with angry, twirling roots, and the sky cracked with sprawling, spidered lightning. Instantly the forces became panicked, attacked on all sides by nature. They hacked at the roots and hid from the sky, yet with each swipe and dodge, the force became more relentless. Uthar yelled in rage. Human. He held up his axe and tore through the roots before him, charging to the front of the woods. Human, where are you? Face me. A voice answered, splintered and coming from all around. A mouse and cat, chase and run, yet it is only the human who knows that the game is not to catch, but to trap. What sorcery is this? He swung into the air, his army being torn apart and eviscerated in their panic behind him. A shadow appeared, the outline of a hooded man, some 20 yards ahead. Alchemy is no sorcery, orc. Uthar screamed and charged the shadow, axe forward and ready to lob its head right off. Got you. He swung and stepped forward, and before his foot could settle, he fell straight down into a pit, 15 feet and shattering his bones with a thumping landing. He screamed and looked up towards the sky, pain and blood spilling from him. The human looked down towards him, no more shadow or illusion, but proud flesh and mortality. Real alchemy is a careful brew of patience and knowledge. Uthar screamed, but it was too late. He could hear it outside of the pit. The sounds of a dying army, of a confused and routing force, slowly being eaten away. The alchemist walked out of the woods and into the chaos, smiling at the result of his careful planning. Every little mix of nature's revenge, of light's bane, all planted years ago in preparation for such an event. He saw the dying army and the trail of the elf who'd long left, and he smiled. Yet again, he'd made a monument to the one, stable truth of this world. There is nothing scarier than a clever human. The alchemist sat on a stump, lit his pipe, and watched the orcs die, humming lightly as the day turned to night. Who next would ignore the scars? The end.